Hi, my name is Christian Debré, and this is Amy Asbrook, the director of Toro Vivant Not Dead Yet, and Taylor Hayat will join us. Toro Vivant is not Dead Yet is a non-religious organization by and for people with disabilities and our allies. Our goal is to inform, unify, and give a voice to disability rights opposition to assisted suicide, euthanasia, and other ending of life practices that discriminate against people with disabilities. Today we have two topics. The first one is Council of Canadian Academies MAID expansion.
Medical aid in dying.
Yeah. Advanced directives. This is the third of our subject of this series. Yeah. Okay. New statistic on Quebec's euthanasia law is the second topic.
New statistics, yep.
Yeah. So Amy Asbrook will talk about it, okay. And Taylor and me will comment from time to time.
Me too. This is the final installment of our series on Health Canada's 3 proposed areas of assisted suicide expansion. Today we'll discuss requests for assisted suicide in advance directives. And I actually want to note before we get started that the Canadian Mental Health Association has come out in opposition to allowing assisted suicide for people with solely psychiatric reasons.
So finally, somebody used his brain.
Right, exactly. So that just came out this morning. Okay, advance directives are statements in writing you make expressing your wishes for what should happen to you if you become incompetent. An advance directive for assisted suicide would be a document saying that if X, Y, and Z conditions were met and you were incompetent to make a decision, then you would want someone to administer euthanasia. So it's fairly straightforward, or at least it seems pretty simple, right?
Yeah, it seems pretty simple.
Right. But what are those X, Y, and Z conditions? What if you have moderate dementia, but not severe Alzheimer's disease? What if you are mentally alert and aware, but you can't speak, but you can communicate in other ways? What if you can still eat from a spoon or take liquids through a straw, but you can't hold a spoon in your hand and bring it to your mouth?
Yeah, it happened quite a lot of time.
Right.
People who are aphasic, that's the name, aphasic, have sometimes difficulty to do simple things like that, but they are full aware and they could enjoy life, right. Going to theater or music, right. Everything.
Right. What if you can direct people to care for you, but can't do your own personal care? What if you need help managing your money, but you can manage other parts of your life? So there's all kinds of potential gray areas between...
From white to black, right. There is a lot of gray in between. Okay? Right. And some gray are very interesting.
Right, exactly. So the problem with an advance directive is that you can't predict all the possible things that could happen to you or how your future self will feel about it. Treatments may change, your views and values can change over time. You may adapt to a disability where you didn't believe you could. So writing a document to cover everything is really impossible. Taylor, did you want to comment on that at all?
Now we hear you.
Go ahead.
Okay. The situation that stands out to me is needing help with aspects of your personal care. As other activists commented, we don't want perceptions of your dignity to be tied up with the ability to do very intimate things. Especially growing up with a disability, needing help is something you're used to, and it's why is it being made out to be one?
Right, exactly. Yeah, people talk about this idea of death with dignity, meaning that somehow they're not dignified if they need help with personal care, but that's really ridiculous. That's just
dignity doesn't came from death. Right. Dignity is somebody that everybody have whatever it happened, except if you are somebody very nasty, like a murderer or something like that, which is not the case for 99.99% of people.
Right, exactly. Even documents for refusal or withdrawal of treatment already pose a significant danger of non-consenting death to ill and disabled people. When admitted to hospital or long-term care, most disabled people are pressured to sign do not resuscitate or DNR orders, medical orders for life-sustaining treatment, MOLST, or other advanced directives.
Yeah, I see somebody being pressured to sign a DNR. It is my father. I see it personally. And it should be like that. It should be treated like a right. It's a right. You have the right to refuse treatment of any kind. But it's not something that the medical people should pressure on. But it happened like that. You know, sir, you must or you should sign it because you know at your age something could happen. But my father right now, it's since that event, it is 3 years, 3 good years.
Yeah.
But he may have died if he has signed this DNR.
Right, we never know. And the other thing is those things stay in your chart. So if you sign it, it's still there the next time you go to the hospital.
Yeah, and you go to the hospital because you choke over a jujube and you die.
Yeah.
Everybody will not help you.
Right. These documents often have a strong bias against life-sustaining treatments. The pressure to sign them and the bias against treatment comes from the idea that life with a disability is a fate worse than death. They portray tube feeding, use of a respirator, and other life aids as limiting, intrusive, unpleasant, and incompatible with a good quality of life. Information about such treatments rarely includes the point of view of people who successfully use them in their everyday lives. Did you want to comment on that, Taylor?
Nope, nothing to say there.
Okay.
Anyway, both of us, have
CPAP,
which is really help to respiration.
Every
night since the last 15 years for me, and
25 years for me.
25 for her, a little bit more than 15. And if somebody look at us when we sleep, they will say, "Oh, there is 2 astronauts in the bed."
Right. Yeah, with machines. That's horrible.
Yeah, but we doesn't suffer from it.
Right.
It's just normal, and it doesn't affect our life at all.
Right. It took a little adjustment, but you know, it makes it possible for me to sleep.
The first days you use it, it's a bit bothering, but slowly you get a bit of it, and now it's nothing.
Right. Studies have shown that medical personnel tend to interpret advanced directives, specifically MOLST, as providing less care than actually called for. A study in the Journal of Emergency Medicine contained a survey by researchers from the University of Pittsburgh Medical Center.
And this is not just, comment on appelle ça, une feuille de chou?
It's not just
Potin, journal à Potin.
Yeah, I know. This is a credible study. This is not just a fly-by-night.
Very credible study.
Not just a fly-by-night institution.
Okay.
In the study, more than 700 physicians in 34 states responded.
So a very big sample.
Good sample. Over 50% of the physicians interpreted a living will as having a DNR order when it did not. So they basically looked at it, saw what they expected to see, which was a DNR order. And they didn't even see that it didn't have a DNR order. Yeah. They just expected to see.
So they assume and you're dead.
Right, exactly. Right. About the same percentage overinterpreted DNR orders as meaning no treatment except comfort care or end-of-life care.
Which is not that.
Right, and there's a lot of other kinds of care that you can receive. You can receive, you know, food and water, be it, now I'm getting only the French word, feeding tube.
Or you feeding tubes.
Sonde alimentaire, yeah, feeding tube. And, you know, there are a lot of other kinds of treatments. Antibiotics, that's an important treatment if you get pneumonia in a hospital, which often happens because there's a lot of bugs.
If it is misinterpreted, they will not treat your pneumonia and you're dead.
Right. Taylor, did you want to add anything?
In the case of the feeding tubes, it's ordinary care for some people.
Yep.
It may look like an extraordinary intervention when it's written in your hospital file, but again, need to be consulted who use them every day and have no problem.
Right. Right. And if you go to my YouTube channel, you'll see actually a video done by a couple of teenage boys about their feeding tubes. And it's really cool. They're just showing how to use a feeding tube. And it's so ordinary. And that's why I put it on my YouTube channel, because it's so wonderfully ordinary of them showing how to use a feeding tube. Advanced care planning documents also do not allow for people who cannot orally state their wishes. Thus, someone who cannot speak may be deemed incompetent simply because they have no means to communicate. Whether and how a person is helped to communicate is usually determined in the moment, and their message could be affected by the wishes of the person chosen to interpret for them.
Yeah, if it's a nephew who wants the inheritance, the message will not be the same. Sure.
Right, right, exactly. Healthcare facilities should have alternative and augmentative communication equipment and trained impartial interpreters on hand so that a nonverbal person can make their current wishes known. And I put up on our Facebook page a couple of days ago an article about a guy who was in a coma, and they figured out how to communicate with him using a functional magnetic resonance imaging system. He could think about a certain thing and it would show up as certain signals on the fMRI, and he was able to communicate that way because that was the only way he could communicate.
That thing just made a point about even people who are supposed to be completely in coma sometimes heard everything and could think.
Right, and that's exactly what this guy's situation was. Did you want to add anything, Taylor?
Well, as someone who used to want to be a speech therapist before ending up here, I concur that that professionals who are AAC experts definitely need to be more widely used.
Yep, yep. And there are lots and lots of options for AAC that don't cost a lot of money. It just takes some creative thinking.
Yeah.
Right. People are using iPads and built-in speech apps.
Yep. Okay, family and medical staff may be unwilling to believe that a person might want to continue living and thus deem a change of heart as a sign of incompetence. For example, Margaret Bentley signed a statement of wishes saying that she would not want to be kept alive by artificial means or heroic measures, including receiving nourishment and liquids, if she reached an advanced state of dementia. When she reached that state, Ms. Bentley continued to accept spoon feeding from the staff at the nursing home where she lived and demonstrated preferences for sweet foods. She also refused a dental examination, though her family claimed she was simply acting on reflex, that she showed her preference and desire to live by continuing to eat, and that she could not be denied the personal care of spoon feeding. And that was a great victory.
Yeah.
So she was able to express her wish, communicate by eating.
When my grandmother was ready to die, she doesn't accept any food.
Right.
She just wants to die.
Right. Right. So, and that's an option for people.
Yeah.
My mother did the same thing. She, about 4 days before she died, she stopped eating and drinking. So people usually change their minds about wanting to die once they have adjusted to life with a disability. If they have access to emotional support to deal with feelings of loss and grief, and services that enable them to remain in their own homes. And, you know, if you're surrounded by people who are saying, oh, your life is over because you have a disability and you're, you know, you'd be better off dead and, you know, you have nothing to live for, then of course you're going to feel bad about yourself. And yeah. So you need support and you need people to help you adjust to it. For example, in 2010, 32-year-old Dan Ely was on vacation in Colombia when he broke his neck in a diving accident and became quadriplegic. At first, he wanted to end his life in Switzerland, helped by the organization Dignitas. Mr. Ely's mother agreed on the condition that he wait 5 years before making a final decision about his quality of life. In 2012, he founded a nonprofit that helps young people in Colombia and the United Kingdom return to school or find work. Mr. Ely continues to run the organization today. So
he's working now.
Yeah.
He has a fulfilling life.
Right, exactly. He changed his mind about wanting to die. Did you want to add anything on this topic, Taylor?
That really shows you how important the feelings of your close circle is, family, your friends, even professionals, as we were talking about last week.
Yep, exactly. Because professionals have just as many biases against disability as anybody else.
Yeah, they are just a part of the population, so 3 to 4%.
Right, and it's very dangerous, the professionals' biases, because people take doctors very seriously. And if a doctor says, oh, your life is crap, then people are going to take it seriously.
Right. What are you going to do if the professionals won't even help you? I might as well just give up.
Right. Exactly. Okay, new statistics on Quebec's euthanasia law. On September 1st, 2017, the Protection of Conscience Project at consciencelaws.org released a report on Quebec's euthanasia program, compiling information from the province's health and social service centers, les Centres Intégrés de Santé et de Services Sociaux, CI3S, et les Centres Intégrés Universitaires de Santé et Services Sociaux, CIUS3S, in Quebec's 18 administrative regions. So some data summaries are missing for the first half of 2017, and that includes some parts of Montreal.
Yeah, what is missing?
So that's fairly substantial, and that's 2 months overdue now. The Protection of Conscience Project report nevertheless shows an increase in the number of requests for and provision of euthanasia in Quebec between the program's inception in December of 2015 and June 10th of 2017. And you can view the report and download Microsoft Excel files with links to original data tables at http://consciencelaws.org/background/procedures/assist017/.aspx. Okay, and that's in our text, so you can refer to it there. Here's some of the statistics. Province-wide, the number of euthanasia requests in the first half of 2017, 501, equals 2/3 of the requests submitted throughout all of 2016, which was 759.
It's very, very big increase.
Right, exactly.
Really,
you know, a couple of months ago, some of the newspapers and media were saying, oh, there's a decrease in the number of euthanasia in Quebec, which is not true. And you kind of wonder why they said that. Wonder why they want to believe that. Well, you know, because euthanasia is not a pretty thing. And the problem is that they're not being truthful. And, you know, this is something that those of us who oppose euthanasia and assisted suicide have predicted for a long time, that there would be an increase.
Right.
And we do it for many times since the last 3 years. Okay, we do it regularly.
Did you want to add anything, Taylor?
I'll be able to comment on a stat in a few minutes.
Okay.
Thank you.
The number of continuous palliative sedation deaths in 2016 was 618. So that's more than people who died. Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot to read that. The rate of euthanasia deaths provided is also higher in this year. 499 in all of 2016 versus 310 in the first half of 2017.
So more than 600 for a year if,
Right.
if it's continuous, right?
Right, exactly. And again, we're missing some of the data, so
Oh, yeah.
there's even more. Like I said, the number of continuous palliative sedation deaths in 2016 was 618, which is more than 499. And the number in the first half of 2017 was more than half of that at 376. So the thing about continuous palliative sedation is you don't have to go through a whole application process for it. You know, you can just say, I want continuous palliative sedation, and they sedate you and they never wake you up.
Okay. Without any procedure of any kind.
Right.
It's a kind of suicide on the spot.
Right. There's, you know, they'll sedate you until you die. And
Because
generally when they sedate you, they're not feeding you and they're not giving you other medications that you need. So
you die pretty quickly.
Yeah.
A few days and you die. You're dead.
right. And there's no procedure, there's no report, there's no
And there's no wake up either.
right.
It's continuous.
Right. If euthanasia deaths by population remain consistent throughout 2017, it will have taken Quebec only 2 years to reach the total that Belgium had after roughly 9 years, i.e. 10 deaths per 100,000 people in the province.
It's close to be unbelievable.
Right.
A 20% year increasement is. I wish to have it if I had a business.
Right. Yeah, anybody would love that, right, for a business owner. Okay. The average number of requests for euthanasia made each week in the province increased from 14 in 2016 to 19 in the first half of 2017. Again, you know, whatever those media were saying about the decrease, that's not true. Average euthanasia administered jumped from about 9 per week in 2016 to 11 in 2017. So,
And those numbers are per week, not per month or
Right.
per year. It's
per week.
We have per week the number of they had wished for a year.
Right. No.
When
Not
they,
quite.
when they talk about the law. Remember it
They
was
said
supposed
100 for the first year.
yeah, but it was a measure that should be very exceptional and so
Right.
on, so on, so on.
For
Okay?
exceptional cases.
Yeah, the exceptional cases.
They said
seems to
maybe
become-
50 in the first year.
Yeah.
In 2016.
Right.
Go ahead.
That's clearly not what happened.
Yeah.
No, it's just 10 times more than they was expecting.
Yeah. I wonder how much.
Yeah.
I wonder how much contagion factors in here. The more people know the option is available, the more people are choosing it, and there's no way for that number to ever go down.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
We agree.
In 2016, 66% of euthanasia requests were granted. In 2017, that figure fell to 62%. However, the percentage of euthanasia granted continued to vary widely across the province, from a low of 28 or 29% in
Which
some
is
regions,
reasonable, okay.
to a high of 100% in a couple of rural districts.
Yeah, it must have been a deaf doctor somewhere
Well,
in this area.
In one area, there were 5 people who applied, and they all got euthanasia. So,
Yeah.
in the other area, it was 1 person who applied. But, you know, there were also areas where 75, 80% got euthanasia. So it's a pretty wide variation. If it's the same criteria and the same people, how come the variation is so wide between one place and another?
Something is missing. There is missing some training, missing some information to the doctor. Something goes wrong.
Right.
It's obvious.
Right. Something's not right. Okay. While most palliative care patients, quote unquote, were living at home, about 46%, there is no indication as to whether these people were receiving hospice or palliative care, home care, or personal assistance services. Only about 7% were actually in hospice, while another 40% in 2016 and 46% in 2017 were in institutions, i.e. hospitals or long-term care facilities. So we often talk about how palliative care is only available to between 16 and 30% of the population. We don't know who's getting good palliative care. We know that these are patients who need it. We don't know who's getting it. So,
and the target was, the last time that I heard it from Mr. Couillard, the target was 100% of Quebecers should have access to palliative care.
Yeah.
But the number is very, very, very low.
Right. Yeah.
So it doesn't reach their target.
Right, exactly. We don't know if it's only the 7% that are in hospice. Hopefully people who are at home are receiving services, and people in hospitals and long-term care facilities, but you know, it's probable that they're not.
Even if it's 50%, which is very high compared to the number that we have,
Right.
It's not
100%.
100%. They miss the target.
Right.
By far.
In half of the regions, there was an increase in the rate of continuous palliative sedations per 100,000 palliative care patients in the first 6 months of 2017. In the Laurentian region, the number of continuous palliative sedation cases in the first half of 2017 was more than double the number of all in 2016. So again, this is the unregulated part. No reports, no application process, no determination by a doctor that you have a, you know, a serious and incurable condition and you're at the end of life. Nothing like that. So this is the practice that is very sort of in the Wild West. And it's increasing. It's started out high and it's increasing a lot.
Yeah.
Nearly as many Quebecers died from euthanasia in 2016, 0.7% of the population, as died in auto accidents in 2013, which was 0.8% of.
So auto accidents are kind of the first cause of death, and now
well, not the first, but
we're close to
it's one. It's
Yeah,
one
it's
cause
one
of
of the
death
first.
that we try to prevent in our society. Try to
Yeah.
prevent them, and we say, oh, 0.8%, that's
too much.
many.
Too much. And we are reaching this level with assisted suicide and
Right.
euthanasia.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
Did you have anything you wanted to add?
Back to the palliative sedation for a second.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder how many people will continue to choose that option because they don't want to go through the doctor application process. They're afraid that it's going to be denied and they just want it all to end now.
Right, right. I think that's entirely possible that people will do that. People do lots of things to get around the rules. They doctor shop, they, starve themselves until they are on their way to being terminal, that kind of thing. So
Yeah.
Right.
I'm sure that people will do that.
You ask a very good question, and it is very, very difficult to answer this question because all the people who you should question are dead.
Right. And the other reason it's hard to answer the question is because this information is not collected. It's not collected about people who opt for continuous palliative sedation, and it's not even collected for people who have assisted suicide, or in Quebec, it's always euthanasia. So, and the federal government has not yet proposed its regulations on how they're going to collect information. So how can we know? We can't keep track of this.
Yeah.
Any other comments, Taylor?
Nope.
Okay. For more information about the topics that we discuss, you can visit our Facebook page at facebook.com/Toujours Vivant, Not Dead Yet. You can also visit our website at tvndy.ca. You can email us at info@tv-ndy.ca, or you can follow us on Twitter @TVNDY. Thanks to Christian and to Taylor for helping out.
Thank you, Amy.
And thanks to all of you for listening. We'll see you next time.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.